I adjusted my tie and reviewed my presentation one final time. Tonight's family dinner at my sister Rebecca's estate wasn't just another social obligation, it was my moment. After years of building quietly, of making calculated investments through Griffin Capital, I was finally ready to step into the light. All I needed was Monarch Bank's support. That support, unfortunately, sat at the head of the table in the form of my brother-in-law, Marcus Williams, Executive Vice President, heir apparent, and the same man who had laughed me out of his office a decade ago when I'd asked for my first loan. He'd called my ideas fantasies back then. Now, he wore his title like armor, reminding anyone who would listen how he'd rescued my sister by marrying into money. Rebecca greeted me with a perfunctory air kiss. Marriage into the Williams banking dynasty had changed her. The girl who once defended me in school hallways now measured worth by labels and invitations. "You look professional," she said, her eyes flicking briefly over my off-the-rack suit. "Marcus just flew back from Milan. You should see his new Italian tailoring." The dining room was a shrine to wealth attempting legitimacy, crystal chandeliers, antique furniture, and art that looked expensive enough to be real, or at least convincing. Marcus sat at the head of the table, perfectly at ease, ruling the room. "Well, if it isn't James," he announced loudly, the small business visionary himself. Laughter rippled around the table, bank executives, their spouses, and carefully cultivated smiles. "Still running that little firm of yours? What was it called?" "Pigeon Capital?" "Griffin Capital," I corrected calmly, opening my laptop. "And that's actually why I'm here. I have a proposal." Marcus sighed theatrically. "Not another one. Rebecca, remember his last big idea? Affordable housing, was it? Adorable." Rebecca shifted uncomfortably. "James, maybe we should talk about this another time." "It's a $2 billion development project," I said. "Steady, sustainable housing, commercial centers, community infrastructure. The model is proven. We just need Monarch Bank's financing." Marcus nearly spilled his wine. $2 billion? He laughed openly now, the room joining him. "You can't even afford a custom suit, and you want to play in the major leagues." "The numbers are sound," I said, pulling up the data. "If you just look." His hand slammed against the table. "This is why you'll always fail," Marcus snapped. "You think business is about ideals, communities, sustainability, helping people. It's not. It's about power." He rose to his feet, smoothing his flawless Italian jacket. "And you have none." He smiled, confident and cruel. "Tomorrow morning, I'll be presenting a real acquisition to Monarch Bank's board. Real money, real influence, things you'll never touch. So enjoy your small dreams, James. They're all you're capable of." The laughter returned, forced, obedient. Then my phone vibrated. I glanced down at the message from my attorney. "Documents confirmed. Transfer complete. You now own 51% of Monarch Bank's shares. Board meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Ready to meet your new employees?" I looked up. Marcus was still smiling, basking in his moment. I allowed myself a faint smile of my own. Tomorrow was going to be unforgettable. "Investments, you can't do this," Marcus whispered, his voice cracking. "Rebecca," he stammered, trembling now. "Your sister." "Yes," I said evenly. "She is. And maybe now she'll remember what that actually means." I rose from my chair, smoothing my off-the-rack suit. "Oh, and that Rivera Banking Group takeover you were planning?" I added calmly. "It won't be necessary. They already report to me." The boardroom doors flew open. Rebecca rushed in, mascara streaking her cheeks. "Marcus, what's happening?" she cried. "Why is our account frozen?" "About that," I said, turning to her. "We need to talk. There appear to be irregularities in Marcus's personal trading accounts. Serious ones." Marcus collapsed back into his chair. His flawless Italian suit suddenly looked like what it had always been, a costume. "All these years," he murmured. "Hollow. You were playing us." "No," I replied quietly. "I was just doing business. Real business, something you never understood." The weeks that followed moved fast. Audits, emergency board meetings, lawyers everywhere. What began as a corporate takeover unraveled into a full-blown scandal. Forensic accountants uncovered years of misconduct, unauthorized trades, inflated asset reports, and personal luxuries disguised as operational expenses. The Williams banking dynasty, once untouchable, crumbled under the weight of its own deception. I was reviewing the latest audit reports in my new office, Marcus's former corner suite, when the door burst open. Rebecca stormed in. "How could you do this to us?" she demanded, slamming her hands on my desk. "People won't even return my calls." "Your friends?" I asked calmly. "Or Marcus's?" "He gave me everything," she said bitterly. "Status, respect, a perfect life." "Respect?" I stood and walked toward the windows. "Let me show you something." I pulled up security footage from a recent board meeting. "Watch." Her face drained as the screen played. Marcus berating a junior analyst, mocking an elderly board member, dismissing concerns about predatory lending with open contempt. "This," I said softly, "was your perfect life, and you stood by, just like you did at that dinner when he humiliated me." "I didn't know what to do," she whispered. "After he paid for Mom's medical bills, I paid those bills." I cut in gently. "Through a shell company. Marcus took the credit. You can check the records." Rebecca sank into a chair, her designer handbag slipping from her fingers. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have believed me?" I asked. "The brother with small dreams?" The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Griffin, the FBI agents are here regarding Mr. Williams's trading violations." Her head snapped up. "FBI?" Her voice broke. "James, please, he's still my husband. And you're still my sister," I said, sitting beside her. "That's why I arranged immunity, conditional cooperation. He'll face penalties and fines, but no prison. The Williams legacy may be finished," I continued, "but you won't have to watch him led away in handcuffs." She looked at me through tears. "Why show mercy?" I handed her a framed photo from my desk, us as kids, her standing between me and a group of bullies. Because someone once taught me that real strength isn't about power, it's about how you choose to use it. My phone buzzed. Marcus had agreed to resign, his final act, transferring his remaining shares. The Williams dynasty was officially over. But maybe the Griffin family wasn't. 1 year later, the building bore a new name, Griffin Partners Financial Group. The marble and mahogany remained, but the culture was different. Junior employees no longer flinched when executives passed. The boardroom now welcomed small business owners and community leaders. I was reviewing a micro-lending proposal when my assistant hesitated at the door. "You have a visitor," she said. "Marcus." He looked smaller now, humbled. A department store suit replaced Italian tailoring. "I'm here to sign the final paperwork," he said quietly. "The divorce settlement." I nodded. "She's moving to Chicago," he added, "starting a small consulting firm." A weak smile. "Funny, isn't it? All those dreams I mocked. They were never small," I said. He slid the folder across my desk, the last of his shares. "The worst part isn't losing the money," he admitted. "It's realizing I could have been part of something meaningful." "You could have." "She's happier," he said. "Started that children's charity I always called pointless." After he left, I walked the office floors. The analyst Marcus, once humiliated, now led community outreach. The elderly board members' warnings had become company policy. Rebecca's charity occupied the entire 10th floor. That afternoon, my assistant brought in a loan application. "Small bakery downtown," she said. "Owner says she met you 10 years ago." I smiled, recognizing the name. On the form, I wrote, "Approved," with compliments from a believer in small dreams. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so right that your enemies are forced to admit they were wrong. Marcus had said business was about power. He just never learned that the greatest power is helping others build what you once were denied.